All right, and we're recording now. Welcome everyone to the June 13th Cloud Custodian Community Meeting. I'm going to drop the meeting notes, the agenda in the meeting chat here. Everyone has it, and then I'll share and we'll talk through it a bit. The first section, as always, is the intros. So if anyone new or old to the community meeting wants to jump in with some introductions, now's the time.
Yeah, maybe I'll go. My name is Robert Campbell. I work with Oracle. I'm based in California, the Bay Area. So we've recently put together a provider for OCI, a cloud custodian provider. And so we're just going through the process for getting that integrated into the builds and cloud custodian builds.
Sounds good. There's if anyone's interested in the work that goes into adding a provider, that pull request, and I should actually share that one. That there's so much good work there, and documentation. There's a lot of really cool stuff in there. Let's pull it up. It's 8620.
The only thing was failing on CI because it didn't look like it had the OCI provider SDK installed.
Okay. I didn't see you come in there, Kapil, but hello. I didn't know if you were in the midst of reinforced stuff, because I know that's ongoing.
I am. I want to pull out and come to this.
Nice. Cool. So Robert was just doing a little intro. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Anybody else? Introductions?
Ryan, you up for it?
There's no pressure.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Ryan. I work at Capital One. This is my second meeting. And yeah, I'm working on some SES stuff to support one of the services we're launching.
I think that just got merged. FYI.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Cool. Cool. Welcome again, Ryan. Glad to have you. Anybody else? Intros again. There's no pressure for the intro or for the camera if you do intro.
Hi, I'm Mandy. This is my first meeting. I have used Cloud Custodian at my job. I work for Verint. Last year, I implemented a bunch of AWS policies. This year, I'm working on Azure, and I've had a lot of fun working with this code base, so I'm happy to be here.
Cool. Welcome. Happy to have you here, and happy to have more people using the Azure bits. I think those get exercised less often than the AWS stuff, so it's good to have use, questions, answers. So cool. Thanks for joining. Anybody else? All right. We'll come back to intros later if we have any more. Okay, so some of the agenda items for we've got some fixed some things that are still in here from previous meetings. Still a note about moving on from Python 3.7 and about the tips and tricks section in discussions. I think there was some Slack discussion recently that I think might make its way into discussions around. And Mandy, I wonder if this might interest you, or if you're in Azure, if you've been using Custodian for Azure, do you also use Teams?
Yes.
You use Teams, okay. And have you been using Custodian to send like the webhook action to send Teams messages?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. I find that there's a couple examples in the docs around using sending out to Teams, but it's not as fleshed out as some of the like the Slack integration.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the tips and tricks might be a good way. We've had some Slack discussion there, some ways to make that stuff a little clearer. But if you come across anything that seems under-documented or inaccurately documented on the Azure side, it would be cool, even if it's just an issue, to let us know, or jumping into Slack. That would be good, so we can help clean it up.
Okay.
Okay, and then policy packs. So this was Darren's point. I know Darren's not here today, but in the last meeting he was talking about just having a repository of examples. I think Kapil, you may have mentioned creating them per provider, but under the custodian org.
I think the follow-up was for Darren to create a GitHub issue as a proposal, which I don't think he ever did. So I think I pinged him about it, but
Cool.
So waiting on that. But and then we can have that discussion on issue.
Cool. That sounds good. The only other agenda thing I know that we've got, there are Docker builds are failing right now, and
I also wanted to add in, there was a question about the Azure CLI, like the fact that we depend on the Azure CLI for getting information. It wasn't clear because on that one, I wanted to just walk through why we couldn't just read the file ourselves instead of depending on the CLI.
yeah, and actually, I wonder if not that I want to welcome Mandy to the meeting and ask her a bunch of questions about Azure, but it looked like we were. Let me pull up the pull request with this. Okay, so that's 8632. And this one, what happened? There was a change to the Azure SDK where it added, it had this internal method, a run command method, and they added a required timeout parameter. We weren't using that, so some calls started breaking. And it looked like where we were using that, it was to have, we include the Azure Identity SDK, and that supports CLI credentials, which it can, we can pull some information about like default subscriptions and stuff like that, where you would do it through like an AZ account show command. And that's what we were trying to do. And it looked like there used to be a public API to be able to get that from the Azure Core SDK, and that was deprecated. So default subscription being a CLI construct, but not having a way to do it from the Azure SDK, it was like you kind of needed to do it from the CLI. So it seemed like our choices were to take a dependency on the CLI or keep using this internal method to farm out to AZ account show. And I know, Kapil, you found that piece where it said, basically what that's doing is parsing the Azure profile.json file in your home directory. And it looked like that's what it did in like 90+% of cases. But it seemed like it was also possible that config information would get stored somewhere else, like a Mac keychain or something like that. And so if we tried to parse that file directly, there would be edge cases where it would fail.
I don't know that that's the case because I'm on a Mac. It's very much like the credentials are in keychain, but this is not credential information. This is like identity information, that like preference configuration stuff, which feels like.
Then that may be. Then it may be the case.
I'd rather avoid a dependency on the Azure CLI because we don't install in our Docker images. Like there's other reasons for why we shouldn't depend on the CLI. I guess in the context of like we would hit the metadata server, so to speak, or we can be explicitly provided. But yeah, I'd rather avoid dependency. Like we don't generally depend on CLIs from the cloud provider. So if this seems like a weird case, it might be worth tracking through on the CLI. Likes to go stick a debug statement and walk up the chain from the entry point to see if there's any other paths that it can go down. But
that's fair.
As far as
find the link,
information is it's in weirdly encoded JSON file, and that's really about it. And if we can just grab that directly, then I think we can save installations on or save some pay points for users.
Okay. Yeah, that seems reasonable to me. I think where I tripped was that I am not as familiar with Azure, and it looked like there was a potential edge case, and I thought, ooh, let me just fix the simplest thing, and then we'll come back to this. So if the next pass is to parse JSON file, that works for me. And again, no pressure, but Mandy, if you do have any input on this, if any of this sounds like something you've bumped into, insight welcome.
It's not as an Azure user per se, is like understanding only Azure CLI, which most people don't bother to look at. But feedback is
that's
always
fair.
welcome.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with Azure either. I just found that line and just got it working for whenever I needed it. But
Yeah, that worked. Cool. Okay, so those were all right. So Kapil, that was the Azure piece. The other thing was the Docker builds. Docker builds were failing. The only one that I know was failing was the C7 and left, and that's where I had this.
So
They are
there's
open.
issues with C7 and left. I don't know that I want to go down this PR route because it feels strange.
Sure.
Generally speaking, we build a full image from entry, and the way this is set up is that it'll build the image from release artifacts as well, which doesn't allow for full testing off a branch, let's say. It did put in mind the question of why this wasn't failing in CI. I think it's because we only do the Docker build for main in CI. As far as the C7 and left image, the other issue is that we actually need the Git binary to be installed. We're currently using the C7 left image is a little bit different because we're using Chain Guard's Wolfie images because it's all to have better supply chain security, minimal images stuff. I think, unfortunately, modifying those images requires adopting a bunch more custom stuff, which isn't going to work in our matrix build on Docker images. So I think at this point, it's probably worth walking back from Wolfie to Alpine. I do want to continue to make, because C7 left is typically deployed inside of application pipelines. We want to try to keep if people are using the Docker image, we want to keep the dependency set minimal. So it'll be different than standard custodian images, which are typically like Ubuntu based, but I don't know if that's going to be a huge, that won't necessarily be a significant risk in this context, because this is more of a source static analysis versus all the other capabilities on policies. So this is, I actually would flag this is a release blocker as well. We also don't have a corresponding GitHub issue for this, which I think we should do first.
That's fair.
And then label that as a release blocker. In terms of getting a release out, I think there's still desire to try. It might slip to next week, but I'm hopeful that we'll at least be practicing our release automation stuff for July. So we, it's more push button, but. Yeah, this is definitely a blocker, because it prevented our signed images for the last release going out, as well as blocking out on the daily dev images.
Okay, then I'll probably move this one to draft then and just leave it there for discussion, and then open an issue and reference it, and we'll tackle it a different way.
Sounds good.
Seems cool. Okay, anything else on that, or that's, I guess that's just what it is. Okay, and then so that's the main agenda items. Then other than that, I think we're going to go into any PRs or issues that people particularly want to discuss. But Pratyush, I did want to talk about that RDS one, the multiple resources, but we can come back to that because I've been yapping a bunch. We'll see if anyone else has something.
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, I had a couple, but it looks like they have since been approved.
Okay. Those would be the SES ones are all taken care of.
Yeah. One question just from like a workflow point of view. Do you guys usually update with like the Git tool? In like avoid merge commits?
So, generally speaking, because we have people from all walks of life as far as their familiarity with Git, we don't really require anything as far as how the actual process on the PR. We will do a squash merge. So anything, regardless of the number of commits in a PR, we'll effectively do a single merge as a single commit back into the history. I mean, generally the request would be, if you're getting reviews on things, to leave separate commits after the reviews, just so that it's obvious what's being addressed from review feedback.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Cool. So that was this one that already got merged, and then this other one. Okay.
Yeah, I took a look at this. I had a question on this with regards to capturing email identities, but I think that's clarified now. I think it only captures. Yeah, go ahead.
It would mean if it's operator email addresses, less concerns, just because we already pulled out some tags anyways for delivery purposes, so we don't feel like we're getting anything. If it's like end customer type stuff, then that would be a different concern and significant concern in that regard.
Yep, got it. Except that I think this PR looks good, and the merge conflict is resolved now, so potentially we should be good.
Cool. Any others, issues or PRs people want to flag for discussion?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is the right forum. Just 8620, so the initial CI provider commit. So just a question out to anyone here, just if there's anything left to do. We don't have anything pending on our side that we know of. So
I think the biggest, I think the last known thing I think got addressed. The problem is the PR is really big, so it takes change late during the course of this. It's just a question of going through the whole thing from start to finish based on what's going on. But I'm also not aware of anything outstanding at the moment. So, but it still requires going through the whole thing again.
Sure. Yeah.
Robert, you froze.
I think we lost Robert. Until I saw you talk, I thought I dropped.
You guys, did you hear me?
No, I got you. Your thought.
Okay, sorry.
Everything we said.
Sorry, I was just saying if there's anything you notice that's missing, that maybe isn't urgent, but we can phase that out and just figure out when to put it in.
Definitely trying to prioritize getting things in. So any review comments would be on what's going in right now. We'll leave future enhancements out for PR.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, if we don't have anything, I was trying to see if we could get an eye on the SNS too long message error, which is PR 8618. I think it's still in draft mode, but just wanted to see if that's what Kapil you were looking for with regards to getting this issue resolved. No rush on this though, whenever you get a chance.
It will probably be this week, but I could not tell you when. Sorry, SNS 8618.
Okay, so this is just trying to customize that. Okay.
Dynamically patching resources for SNS SQS transfer.
Yes, no, I think it's doing the thing. I might want to structure it differently because we have to deal with compression, but yeah, I'll try to do some feedback. I mean, okay.
So your concern there, Kapil, is that we just need to make sure that we're checking. Oh no, so we are encoding. Oh no, we're packing.
No, this is going to double encode things. This isn't quite right. Yeah, this isn't actually it. This will end up double encoding the messages. So this isn't the intent was that we actually assemble the envelope manually at the end too, so we don't get because right now this is serializing the message or serializing each individual resource, adding it to a batch, and then saying JSON serialize the batch, which means you get a double encoding on the resources. So this isn't quite right.
Okay, got it. Yeah,
I'll try to give some feedback from the PR this week.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. And Pratish, since we're talking about the one, I did want to point out this one, this 8614. I think that this came through as a fix to the propagate tags, actually not propagate or copy related tags for RDS and Redshift. But it was you ended up making the change at a higher level here in queries. I think it's just worth calling out in case anyone comes across it. This may fix other things, which means there's always an outside chance that it will break other things. What we were doing here was this code path comes up when we're firing an event-based policy or with certain other spots like in copy related tag. And when it tries to look up resources, given a list of IDs, and we were dying on resource types that had a scalar filter type if we had more than one identity. And so fixing this fixed copy related tag, it could also fix some event-based policy triggers, but mostly just want to call that out just in case. I would hope the only other side effect is that some other things start working.
Yeah, we haven't really pulled it into our platform or our environment yet, but I think once we do that, I'll definitely have more visibility in terms of something that this might end up breaking.
Cool.
But yeah, thanks for the help on this.
Yeah, well, thanks for your help with all the testing. I know it's a little tedious with those data sources, getting them up. Okay. I think that's it, unless there's any follow-up discussion or other issues or PRs that folks want to talk about.
There are Black Ken took up the mailer formatting, so I think that's probably going to go through separately than the formatting the rest of the tree. So I think he's got some active work he wants to do on the mailer, and he wanted to take care of that first. So as soon as this passes CI, I'm going to just do this one by itself and rebase the other one once this is landed.
Yeah, I started looking at this actually. I'm glad you mentioned this one because I did have a couple questions about it. So one is that he was using the 100 lang length here. I think we were, depending on the Black version, we were either implicitly using 88 or 100.
We should just explicitly configure. I thought we were explicitly configured in my prior project Camel.
Yeah, and that's what it's not configured there. It's configured for rough, but not for Black. So yeah, I was going to let him know that we should add that configuration there and add mailer to the format set as part of this PR. Also, if we're gonna combine a Black with a refactor, I'm wondering if we should split it out and then add the format pass to like an excluded commit list so we can filter those out later, or if we care that much.
I
can
mean,
go either way.
It's related to the mouse reformat. I'm okay leaving it out.
That's fair.
Otherwise we get the rinky-dink one-liner commit. I mean, which is fine, but it feels part and parcel. Otherwise, I think if we were to structure it otherwise, I guess it doesn't matter if it comes before or after. But I mean, I think it's pretty reasonable to. I understand what you're saying. There's a semantic change here, but it's a one-liner, so I'm okay with that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with it. I know that as we start doing, and this ties in a little bit to the OCI commit too, because I think there was a different line length there, and I was thinking, well, if we're gonna have a formatting, we should just keep that the same line length, and then add OCI to the format spec so that lint pass touches that out of the gate.
That's a good point. we can probably directly like push some of that stuff to the PRs that are extant, just to make it a little bit easier. But yeah, those are all good callouts.
Okay, I'll follow up on this one then. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up because I forgot about it. Okay. So I think that's it for this meeting then. Thanks everybody for coming. More questions, any other follow-up stuff that comes up after, we can handle in Slack. And oh, Kapil, you also pointed out we should have these notes going in as GitHub discussions. So if we have any direct meeting follow-up, we can have it right in GitHub. And I had not been posting those there, so I'm going to start doing that with today's.
Actually, do we have do we have the flow for meeting recordings going into our YouTube channel working?
Yes, well, we're putting them in. It's a bit of a manual thing, actually, unless somebody knows of a way to do it directly from the Google Meet to YouTube. But we've been putting those over there. And then because they get added to the community meeting playlist, they also end up in that, they get transcribed and they end up in that list at, where is this spot? Oh yeah, this meetings.io. So a little bit of time after they go through. So we see the last one here. You'll see links to the meetings and then transcriptions here if folks want to review stuff.
So the other thing that came up in that context was if I go to the community page on the website, like, I don't know if there's a way to get a feed on that, because currently it's run clean for like 2 or 3 years ago, and like just wondering about updating our page to like point people to the link as opposed to a multi-year-old meeting.
Oh, well, these? No, the playlist. So once, we add them to the playlist, so they go there.
Okay.
They're just, yeah.
Okay, that works. It's just so that one, that the image one, the image on it is from, a while ago.
Yeah, gotcha. I wonder if we can edit the playlist to just reverse sort, unless it's, in case it's not clear. I'm still very much figuring this stuff out.
Aren't we all?
So, yeah. But that's a good call out too. I'll try to get that updated. That'd be cool.
Cool.
All right. Oh, thanks, Mandy. Yeah, I had looked. I was like, oh, you used to be able to directly move things, and now you can't. Download it and re-upload it. So maybe there's a
It
better
looks like
answer here.
it's live stream. So you can set up the live streams, then it automatically saves live streams.
Yeah, I saw something about live streams and I was hesitant to do that because occasionally we'll have a discussion or someone asks a question and they post creds or account IDs sensitive info. And it's nice to have that editing it a while, but I like the option of having the edit pass to pull that stuff out. Maybe we don't need it anymore though. Maybe we're in a live streaming world and we should just live stream the thing. Since we're in a community meeting, does anyone have opinions one way or the other about live streaming as opposed to just taking the recording?
No.
Is anyone opposed to live streaming?
Whichever's easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever makes your life easier, I think.
Yeah, all right. If there's less manual steps and we're okay with that, I'll just try to make it really explicit, call it out before we start it or at the beginning, so that it's just really obvious to folks.
You can always go back in YouTube and blur out images too.
Oh, cool. Thanks. I genuinely didn't know that.
Yeah, in the edit section. It's cool.
Nice. All right, cool. Well, thanks. Now we have something to look forward to for next time. We'll have to look into live streaming. All right, then until next time, our end of the month meeting. Thanks everybody for joining, for the contributions, and we'll see you in Slack.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. Goodbye.